Hi, in this video I want to talk about something that comes up quite often, and it's a question that I often get asked, and I also see it getting asked in a lot of the Facebook groups, and that is, how do you hypnotize the analytical client? With the idea being that there are certain clients out there who are very analytical and that they're very difficult to hypnotize using the standard type of hypnosis inductions. And so I see there's certain trainers out there will buy into this and convince their students that what you need to do in this situation is to use some form of either an Ericksonian indirect induction or to use some form of confusional induction. So for example, you might have the client count back from 1,000 in threes whilst imagining themselves in the shower and turning round, which clearly is very hard to consciously do, with the idea that what you're going to be doing is overloading the person's conscious mind so they can't analyze what the hell's going on and they go into hypnosis. And that sounds all very well and good if you believe that hypnosis is an altered state of consciousness or a trance state. Because if you do something like count back from 1,000 in threes, and imagine, and while you're doing so, you imagine yourself in the shower with the water dripping over you and you turning around, then you will go into some form of altered state. But the question is that hypnosis? And according to the research, certainly if you've watched any of my previous videos, hypnosis isn't an altered state of consciousness or a trance. It has nothing to do with relaxation. And this is not me saying it, this is the researchers such as Irving Kirsch and Sabin and T.X. Barber. All these people for years have been saying that hypnosis is not an altered state of consciousness or a trance state. That in fact it's a suspension of disbelief and believed in imaginings. So if that's the case, then what's going on with the analytical client, and do you really need to use some convoluted induction in order to get them into hypnosis? And the answer to that is no, you don't need any special induction at all. The problem with the analytical client is you haven't done a decent enough pre-talk, because they are still under the illusion that hypnosis is some weird altered state, that maybe they're going to lose control, and if they're analytical, they probably don't like losing control, they like to control everything. And so they're going to analyze everything you say for fear that you might suddenly be able to control them. So the analytical client, they don't need a special induction. What they need is for you to spend a few moments dispelling all the myths and misconceptions about hypnosis. Now, I did a video a couple of days ago on how to do a pre-talk, but it's worth recapturing those points and going over it and explaining to them, okay, here's what hypnosis is, here's what it isn't. You're not going to fall asleep, float around the room, become a zombie. You're not going to feel weird in any way. In fact, all it's going to be like is you using your imagination. You're going to be sitting there with your eyes closed. I want you to imagine what I'm asking you to imagine. And so sometimes you might have to spend a little bit longer with people. So I'll often use something like the lemon test, for example. Now, I'm hoping or assuming that most of you know what the lemon test is, and that oftentimes you use it. But if not, it's really simple. Basically, you say to the client, I want you to imagine in your hand you have a juicy ripe lemon. I want you to just put your hand out like that and just imagine you've got juicy ripe lemon in that hand. I want you to look down at your hand, not at me, to the hand, and just imagine what it would look like if you could see a juicy ripe lemon in that hand, and just kind of feel the weight of it in the hand. And as you look down, you can see the bright yellow color of the flesh, and really feel it in your hand. Okay, maybe feel the waxy texture of the skin. So you're painting a picture. Now, if the person goes, yeah, but there isn't one, I can't even say it, an analytical client may well say that. So you say, I know there isn't one. I want you to imagine one. Can you use your imagination? You know, like when you were a kid, that you use your imagination, and maybe you had imaginary friends, imaginary toys, and imaginary scenarios. They go, yeah, I want you to do the same thing. So I just want you to imagine a lemon there. Can you do that? Oh yeah, I can do that. Ah, great. Okay, so just imagine a lemon there. Okay, and now on the other hand, I want you to imagine you've got a really sharp knife. I want you to imagine cutting that lemon in half. Feel the juice trickling between your fingers. Maybe smell some of the citrusy aroma up your nose. And then imagine turning one of the halves of that lemon over and looking at it and seeing the cut segments and maybe the juice glistening as you look at it. And then imagine bringing that up to your mouth and taking a big bite out of this juicy, ripe lemon and feel it, all the tingling sensations on your tongue and all your taste buds are going really, the sensation of that tangy, sharp lemon on your tongue. Now, for most people at this point, if they're imagining what you're asking them to imagine, what will happen is there'll be a change in their physiology and there'll be an increase in the saliva in their mouth. Now, at that point, you've told the client what to do. And because you're giving a constant feedback in that situation, you're teaching the analytical client, hey, you're meant to imagine what I'm asking you to imagine. I'm not putting this fluence on you to like zap a lemon into your hand. You're meant to imagine it, right? That's your job. Because hypnosis isn't passive. This idea that we're just supposed to give the client a PMR type induction to relax the conscious mind out of the way so we can sneak in through the back door and bypass the mythical critical faculty of the conscious mind is just nonsense. We're getting them to use their imagination. This is what hypnosis is, believed in imaginings. So what happens in that situation is after a few moments of them imagining it, they kind of forget that they're imagining it and it causes a change in their physiology. And so what we've had them do is suspend the disbelief. Like, there is no lemon. I know there isn't. Imagine one. Oh, okay. Suspended the disbelief. Now we have them imagine the lemon in using all their senses. And what will happen is they will start to forget that they're imagining it and it will start to cause a change in their physiology. So we're starting with the current level of belief. Then what we're doing is we're having them imagine something. That causes a change in their physiology, and that then reinforces the belief that they are being hypnotized. If you speak to some of the more educated hypnosis trainers out there, they'll tell you that the purpose of an induction isn't to induce a trance. It's not to induce relaxation. The purpose of the induction is nothing more than a ritual that the client thinks they need. And oftentimes the hypnotist thinks they need. But it's a ritual. So when you're working with a so-called analytical client, you don't need special inductions. What you need is to slow it down and to educate them that hypnosis isn't what they think it is, that they're not going to fall asleep, float around the room, become a zombie, feel weird in any way. They're going to be aware of everything, they're going to remember everything, and they're still going to be able to think. And amongst those thoughts might be, I don't know whether I'm hypnotized or whether I'm just relaxed. At that point, they need to keep an open mind, follow on the suggestions, use their imagination, imagine what you're asking them to imagine to the best of their ability. And if they do their part, then they get the result. If they're not willing to do that, then you can't use hypnosis with them. You have to do something else. So when you get people who claim to be an analytical client, slow it down a bit, do a bit of pre-talk, really educate them into the fact that they got a job to do. I never, ever, ever have a problem with so-called analytical clients. It just does not come up. Why? Because I educate the client ahead of time. I tell them what I'm going to tell them, and then I tell them. So this is the thing, that you don't need special inductions. Anyone who tells you that you need a special induction for an analytical client, they don't know what they're talking about. It's mad. Because again, it's assuming that you have to use a special induction to bypass the critical faculty of the conscious mind, get the conscious mind out of the way. That's not how hypnosis works. We know that now. There's research to prove it. That's not what hypnosis does. Hypnosis is just a suspension of disbelief and believed in imaginings. And just to give you an idea of this phrase, believed in imaginings, that's exactly how clients create problems. Clients hypnotize themselves by imagining something and they forget they're imagining it. They really do. That's how they create problems. Think of someone with anxiety. Someone with anxiety, say for example, I worked with someone a little while ago who had a big fear of giving the speech at his wedding. So when he's sitting in my office, he's starting to tell me about this fear he has about giving the speech at his wedding. And so he's telling me, oh, I just imagine standing up and being really, really nervous and everyone's staring at me with these big bug eyes. And as he's telling me this in my office, 3 months before the wedding, he's starting to have a panic attack. What's happening there? He's forgetting that he's just imagining. He's creating that problem by imagining something and forgetting that he's imagining it. And this is what all people do with their problems. And this is why hypnosis, when done correctly, is so powerful, because it uses the exact same process that people use to create their own problem. So don't get fooled into this idea that you need some special induction with analytical clients. If you find yourself with a client who's not doing what you're asking them to do, back the process up, do a better pre-talk, educate the client as to what they're supposed to do, and your problem will be over. So just think about that. This is really important. Now, if you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe and have a look at the membership channel, because there's hundreds of videos on there now with hours and hours and hours of top quality information on NLP and hypnosis, which is available for a ridiculously low price. So have a look at that. Till then, I'll see you soon.